try to do this right. All right. So now we are on recording, and I think we can be able to share later on. So happy to speak to you today about building a strong relationship. And just very quickly, what are relationships really? Any connection between two people or more, which can be either positive or negative. And relationships, we're going to be speaking about the types of relationships that you have, the quality of relationships, but also asking if you feel really connected in your relationships. Not sure what happened to my slide. We're supposed to have a picture, so it disappeared the last moment. I think I don't have a good relationship with the internet. But basically, what I had here as a picture in this slide was you in the middle and your connections with other people. Because many times when you think about a relationship, you can't have a relationship with yourself. You need to have a relationship between you and somebody else. It can be between you and an individual. It can also be between you and a number of individuals as a collective. And there are different types of relationships generally. You'll find a variety, relatives, friends, but oftentimes we speak about these four main types. You can have relationships that are storge or affection. They're the ones that I love most. And I hope that majority of you on the call have these kinds of relationships. They're usually a fondness that you have, a familiarity, and it's common between a sister, a brother, a cousin, relatives especially. So you feel something for your cousin, you feel something, you care about them, sort of like a caring relationship. We also have philia, which is a friendship. That's another one that I really love, because sometimes if your family lets you down, then you can turn to your friendships. And friendships could be within your family, so you can have a sister or a brother who is a good friend of yours. And these relationships strictly focus on that friendship. They don't go beyond that. You share common interests, you might quarrel, argue, but you really have this thing they call like. I think the English word for this friendship is to like somebody. And then we have eros, which is more romantic. It's the one that can be very exciting, especially as you get into it. Also can be very painful, depending on the direction it takes. But in love, to be in love with somebody means that you feel so connected to the person that you might not be able to live without them. Especially at the start, when the feeling begins. Over time, you might not have that feeling like you're going to die. Because usually the psychological thing about relationships in love is that you will have certain hormones go up in a crazy way and they will make you feel a certain way. But over time, they start going down. It doesn't mean that your love has reduced. It just means that you've become more stable. You've understood how it works. You can manage your emotions better. Very interesting relationships are in the loved ones, and we'll talk a bit more about them later. Agape is the one that's unconditional. I'd like to think of it as a mom. If you're a lady on the group and you've been pregnant before, as you carry around your baby in your womb, you could do many strange things to this baby. But the fact that you hang in there, you wait, you give birth, then you start caring even when they cry, you don't expect much back. It's very unconditional. But the one that is more senior, of course, to that relationship is the one that comes from God, if you believe in God, because that's something that's more powerful than you. And many times God will do for you things without expecting you to do anything back. So in short, those are the types of relationships that we generally have. So that's a little picture that I was hoping to speak to earlier on that now came back because of my good relationship with the internet. As you see, this is a good way for you to try to analyze how you stand with your relationships. Are you having friends? How many friends do you have? If you think about the number of relationships and the types. And the friends could be falling inside the category of philia. But also, do you have an intimate relationship with somebody, a spouse, a girlfriend, a wife, and there could be a line. We usually try to do this exercise to help you understand yourself in connection with others. You could do this exercise after this session, just to understand one. If you have many relationships, that is one thing that is positive. And then you need to go into step 2. Having many relationships means you basically draw yourself in the middle and you draw a line to whoever else it is. You draw circles of people around you that you're connected to. Now, when the line is dotted, like you see there, it means your relationship is fair. It's not so strong. It's based on some kinds of conflict, but it's not a bad relationship. If your relationship has 3 lines that are very strong, like in this case of the teacher, it means you have a very strong supportive system. You can relate to them very well. So basically, this diagram will start to show you the quality of your relationships when the lines are more than 3. I'll give you my own example. I have a sister called Joan Garro. She might be on the call today or she might not be. But if I had to draw her on this diagram, I would give her a 3-star, 3 lines, basically, because I can tell her much of what I'm thinking and she will not judge. And I'm very comfortable around her. I could also tell you about a friend of mine with whom I have a broken relationship. So if it's broken, draw the line, but break it. Make a line to break the line to show basically it's a broken relationship. Doing that helps you to understand whether you need to work on the broken ones. So the more you see many broken ones or dotted lines, the more likely you're in trouble. It means that you have many relationships, but they are not of quality. Quality means you have people that you can talk to, you can rely upon, depending on the challenges that you might face. All right, 30 minutes is really a short time, Francis. But let's try to move on.
Oh, that's why I started early. So you once you can continue.
Okay, social connections. So social connections, basically, just moving on from the previous slide, we were talking about quality of relationships. Social connectedness is an important aspect. If you feel that with somebody you belong, you connect to them in a way that makes you feel that they got you, they've got your back, it means you have a social connection. So the degree to which people have or perceive a desired number, quality, and diversity of relationships that creates a sense of belonging. You might have a friend that you don't really belong with. Even when you're friends, you're not very sure if they would back you up if there's a situation. Now that's really a poor quality relationship. It doesn't mean you should only have very high quality relationships in high numbers. Have a few good relationships, and we'll talk a bit about the numbers. But do you have a friend, if you're on the call, do you have a friend or a group of friends that you could just call and chill out with in the evening and feel very happy about it as you get back? If you do, then you're starting to have that sense of belonging. The world of a person. Human beings have 3 things that are really critical for you to survive. The world of the person is made up of 3 aspects. What you have, and you can see that the relationships are on top. What you can do, which is the activities that you can do, and who you are in terms of your values, beliefs, and culture. These 3 dimensions come together into what you see in the corner. To make you up as a total human being that is socially connected and relates to others, you need to be able to have these 3 quadrants addressed. It helps you to be able to become resilient, deal with issues as they come, deal with crises, deal with shocks, deal with conflicts. And you could see this quadrant minus the relationship part. But many times, if you have a situation, a challenge, you're most likely going to have to get back to your relationships. Ask your spouse, ask your family members for support. And so they make you a better person in a situation where you're struggling. You could rely on some of the activities you can do. Maybe you're a skilled baker, you can teach this, you can draw that, and you can use that to make your life go on. And you could also draw on your beliefs and your spirituality and your esteem. But you really need the relationships to make everything else work. Now, if you have the right social connections, most likely you're going to have less anxiety and depression. Many studies, especially in Europe, we know that many people who commit suicide, or once you go into, the African culture is very helpful for us because you can just check with your neighbor, ask a question, get a response. Most people in other countries, especially in Europe, are disconnected from each other. You live in your own house, you're by yourself, and so most likely you're not connecting, even if without the quality. You're basically on your own. What happens in Africa is that many times, and I feel that we are going in that direction, many times you have people, you have friends, your chako is finished, you walk over to your mother's place. you have lost somewhere, you're very comfortable to ask about the direction. It's very easy. You ask, even a boda boda will take you on a ride. These connections, because you keep talking to people, you keep relating, will lower your levels of anxiety and depression. They'll help regulate your emotions. They'll lead you to a higher self-esteem because you keep getting affirmations, and you'll improve your overall immune system because you'll have less stress. You'll have people to talk to. You'll have part of the reason why they say men tend to die earlier on, or they struggle. Yes, men die earlier on, unfortunately. If you have in a couple relationship, the men officially die faster because they don't have people to, they don't get the people to talk to, they don't express themselves. Social connections give you the opportunity to be expressive, to talk to a colleague, to say what you're feeling. And as such, you reduce your anxiety and your depression levels. Now, there are three specific domains that are related to social connections. The intimate one, these are really the relationships that are very close to you. Their spouse, especially somebody you love, that you live with, or your immediate family members. These relationships that are intimate, we don't expect more than 5 of those. You could have more than 5, but oftentimes on average, you want to make sure you have 5 very good quality intimate relationships, whether it's with your son or daughter, your brother, your cousin, and with your spouse, hopefully, because that's where you live most of the time. So once you invest in the intimate relationships, they usually in these domains, they say all the 3 are important, but the intimate relationships where you spend majority of your time are really critical. You also have the collective relationships that form another quadrant. These ones are connected to groups. So groups like church group, a school, a parents committee. Many of us belong to different groups. You will notice that your relationships, those groups can't be the same as the ones you have with your intimate. Many times, many of us are connected to about 150 people on average that are in the collective arena. These ones are also important because they connect you outside of your immediate to something bigger, and they give you the push that you need that connects to the rest of the community. Then you have the relational ones that are more like outside of your immediate family, immediate relational, to more slightly distant. So your workmates, it could be also your extended family. These ones tend to be maybe about 20, 30, depending on the workspace that you have. The point is, you need to have all these 3 domains covered. You can't completely disassociate yourself away from the collective, which is the groups, the church, and the school where your children go or where you go. But you also need to make sure maintain the relational ones and the intimate ones. How do you then build and maintain social connections that will keep you healthy, will reduce your depression, keep your anxiety down? You need to connect with close friends and relatives, at least bi-weekly. Close friends and relatives are the relational ones. They are the relational ones. You'll notice that on this slide, we don't have the intimate ones because the expectation is that you're connecting with them daily. You're in the same house, and so you should be speaking to them every day. Or if you're not in the same house and you're in different locations, you want to send a text, send a message, do a call. So you can be able to connect. Connect means communicate, relate with a person as much as possible. The bi-weekly ones, your mom, for example, maybe stays somewhere, your dad, your cousin, they're close relatives, close friends, they're in the filial group, but you relate. If you want to have strong social connections, every 2 weeks, you need to try to make sure you are relating. When you have the groups where you volunteer, where you belong, if you don't belong to anything, you don't participate in any group activity, this may be your day to go and consider it, because collective relationships are really important. And here, you don't have to have it weekly, bi-weekly. You can go to a church on Sunday. You can go to another activity. We have all these clubs that you could participate in, but they help you to connect and live better. Now, be in touch physically. Unfortunately, the devices are really killing us, because sometimes you can go to a dinner with a group of friends and you are literally alone. You are together and everybody's on their phone, because we are trying to connect with somebody who is in another locale. Well, for you, you're here together, you've agreed even to meet. So many times the phone actually keeps you out of touch with people physically. You need to harness that technology that you have in front of you to call somebody that is far, but you need to connect as much as possible physically. Aware that there are, of course, all these resource constraints and things like that, but find ways in which you can relate with people physically. Don't be a stranger. Practice gratitude. Being thankful every day keeps a positive attitude. It means that the practice is that if you do something for about 28 days, most likely it's going to be something that's part of you. A simple tip would be to find a social connection to whom you account every day and send a thankful tip. What are you happy about today? Is it the water that you drank? Was it a conversation you had? There must be something you're thankful for. And the more thankful you are, the more positive you look and appear and present yourself, and the more likely your connections grow. Support people. There's something in psychology called the helper's high. The more you help people, the more likely you're going to have less anxiety, less depression, and you'll be more socially connected. Notice among your friends, I'll just give you the example of Francis here on the call. In our family, when we want to look for somebody to help you, the first name that comes in your mind is Francis. And Francis is a happy guy, if you have met him, because it's
Hey,
very helpful. And so you can, it's a tip for everybody to go and check it out, ask you for help. But there are people among us, even when you look in your team or the people that you relate with, there's usually that's someone that's very helpful, and they are never angry, if you notice, because helping gives you that helper's high. So why don't you do something today helpful? Open a door for somebody, carry a glass of water, switch on a projector for someone. Be nice. Being helpful will improve your social connections, but will improve your mental health significantly. Smile. Smiling is really important. Smile even when you're struggling. As you smile, you're going to have the opportunity to have the right relationships getting started. I'll give you an example. Recently, I was in a traffic jam and nobody was willing to allow me join. So I just smiled. And then this guy smiled back and literally almost parked so I could join in. Just a smile. You may think you don't have a very good smile, but just a little bit will help you to bring it out. A few more tips. Maintain emotional intelligence. It's the ability to recognize and manage your emotions. You can tell that I'm not feeling very happy, I'm not in a very good mood. That intelligence helps you to be able to tell how you relate. Manage conflicts. Without a doubt, when you're in a relationship, you're going to be in conflict. Once in a while, every day, in 1 year, you're going to have some disagreements. You need to find ways of de-escalating, avoiding a conflict from becoming a problem. Communicate effectively, I think we spoke about that. This is another tool that you can use. So today you've received at least 2 tools. The second, that tool is called a conflict ladder. Think about your times when you've had a conflict with a relative, a friend, an intimate, a relational person, and figure out when you're angry, when you're having a conflict and you're having a conversation, do you usually just use your body language? Or do you usually say something? Or do you disagree to the point where your tone goes up? Okay, there are people who are gifted, their tones are up all the time. So even without any conflict, they look like they're in a conflict. But at least we understand them. Are you in the state where your tone gets very loud, you become sarcastic? Or do you find yourself angry and shouting? If you find yourself on level 3 and 4, it's time to think about it and figure out ways in which you could make that slightly different. Move towards level 2, and there are ways you could de-escalate that. Breathe in, breathe out, walk away from the situation, look for the best case scenario. All these attempts to try to make sure you have a balanced way of dealing with conflict. When you truly understand the dynamics around relationships, when you understand the relationship dynamics and they look really like that cobweb, you build stronger and healthier relationships that make you more socially connected and more able to improve the way you live, to improve your mental health, to improve your life generally. I hope the session was helpful. And we have just a few minutes so you can be able to ask questions. There is a QR code there where you could leave a review, but there's also the contact for Magister. I know that Francis probably speak about this, but there is a group where a lot of things are posted. I happen to be part of that, and I managed to learn a lot from it. Back to you, Francis, for that last part.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Rita. Thank you so much for that great presentation. Mumbere here says, great lessons, Rita. Then someone says in the chat, kindly show me the slide of emotional intelligence. Yeah, those. So we have 5 minutes to go. Maybe those 5 minutes we use them to ask a few questions. So we are going to ask maybe 3 people. Let the 3 people ask, then doctor, you will answer. And then if we have more time, we could allow one question and we wrap it up. But also we have a group, a WhatsApp group. The last slide, the second last slide had something, the contacts. So you could contact the admin and maybe we share the slide, or someone was actually trying to record, but we're already recording. So we could share the recording as well. But just use the contacts in the slide. I think we shall share. So doctor, you'll have to show us that slide. So the questions, maybe, do we have any questions? I'm not seeing anyone with a hand up.
Okay, so if you don't have a question, I'm also happy to hear how you think you stand on the relationship map. So that first diagram that we were showing was about the relationship map. You'll definitely get these slides and you'll also get the recording. So don't worry about that. How do you think you're doing with
Yes, definitely. The slides are going to be shared on the WhatsApp group. That's and the recording possibly. Thanks, doctor, for the insights. Kindly speak about the effects of money in relationships. How do we manage expectations? I would like to request you, Rita, to share the slides. Thank you. Great insights. Dr. Letitia, how often do we need to reflect on emotional intelligence? Those, I think, are 2 questions. The one about emotional intelligence and then the one about money.
Sure.
Then there's the last one. I'm very poor at relating, part of growing up, I guess. How can I overcome this? So those are the 3 questions.
Sure. Happy to speak to those. So I think one of the first things you do is try to join that WhatsApp group, because then you will be able to receive a link to the emotional intelligence webinar that was done a few months ago. It has very much detail on how you deal with emotional intelligence, how you should reflect, how you should deal with it. But basically, being emotional intelligent means being self-aware, knowing exactly how your moods work, knowing how to respond. But I encourage you to listen to that. Money can go sideways, but can also go right. Money makes the world go round. But I think my general advice around money is approach your relationships in as authentic a way as you can. Authentic. You need to be very honest when you're starting engaging in any kind of relationships about who you really are. I know that many of us dating a few years ago, somebody will approach you with all kinds of things. And then the next week you realize they can't even afford a chapati. So as honest as you are, I think it helps, because I think that's why the church says in sickness and in death and in poverty, that part of the line. But relationships, don't try to use your money to make relationships work. I think we've seen stories where somebody thinks that they're paying school fees, they're buying for your shirt, they're renting for your house, and so they expect that the relationship is going to work out because of that specific stuff you're doing with money. Take the money aside and try to relate. One other piece of advice I would give, especially if you're still considering the intimate type of relationships, you're trying to get into those, is be careful with the choices you make. There is being trusting, but I think you need to be able to analyze very well that relationship and go in when you're more aware about how you might be able to manage. And then later on, be yourself, become authentic. Regarding I think the question that I may not have answered entirely was on
something to do with fear. There is fear.
Fear thing. And then I think there was a question of what if my relationships were bad from the start? sometimes how we relate depends a lot on how we were also raised. So as a family, you are not connected, you're not able to talk really, you weren't really allowed to have friends in the house, come and all those kinds of things. Most likely will be more solo. But it's never too late to start a relationship. Start by smiling, do the helpers high, find activities, especially one way in which you can get more relationships is to join the collectives activities, and you meet some people and then you can start relating. And slowly by slowly, you will build a social network that you can relate with. But to do really work on your relationships, you need to spend some time in it. It's not as simple. How can we create healthy boundaries in relationships? Healthy boundaries. It depends. If you start with your mind thinking about a boundary, you're in trouble. Because I think the more you are authentic in front of your relationship, the better. The more clear and straightforward about who you really are, the better for yourself going forward. But when you think boundaries, it means you're already having concerns about what might happen or what might not happen. It kind of relates especially to giving everything, giving all your trust, giving everything to something, and then later on being broken. Many times we have friendships where we put everything, we put all our trust, we put everything, and then they get broken. Inside your heart, there, fortify a bit. Have some fortification, using nutrition word. Have some space to allow for your expectations not being met that way, but at the same time, give everything you can to your relationship. Because even when your boundaries or the expectations are not met, I usually tell people that if you have to love somebody, love them so much that it doesn't matter what they do. Even if they do this or that, because you love them so much, it helps you to be able to manage the situation. If you love them just a little thing that not meeting your expectation will just make you start thinking about your boundaries permanently. Okay, I still see.
Yes, doctor, you have to do the slide that has the contacts,
Okay.
and then we shall ask in 1 minute. Just give us our take home, and then we call it a day.
Sure.
What do we take home?
So what do we take home? Are you seeing the slides again? The ones that have
Yes.
the contact?
Yeah, we are seeing the one with no. There is the one with the review.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Yes, that.
The contacts.
Yeah, so they can send a WhatsApp to that number and then get added to the group, or they could send an email or visit the website.
Sure.
Yep. So our take home.
In closing, relationships are important. And for you to tell that your relationships are working, think about if or not you really are connected, if or not you belong, if or not you feel supported in those relationships. It's not about the number of relationships you have, but the quality. Because if you have 5 very good friends versus having 20 bad friends, you are in a better position with 1 very good friend. So I encourage you to invest in these relationships. Know that it's part of the way in which you can build your resilience and be a better person, and work on little steps. And we provided you a few tips on how you can build your social connectedness further. I would close like that, and back to you, Frank.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rita. Thank you very much. Sweet things always they end when you still want to eat them. But thank you very, very much for this topic about relationships. I don't think there is anyone who would nail it like this. I want to thank everyone who has participated, who has joined. The contacts are there. If there was somebody saying they are strangers on the group, just send a WhatsApp. They will be added to the WhatsApp group so that you can receive more information about our next topics on Lunch Plan. And then also feel free to ask questions on the group. And yeah, Otherwise, we are 5 minutes past the time we're supposed to stop. I want to wish everyone a nice Thursday and have a good, yeah, bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.